Welcome back to Motley Fool Money. Chris Hill here in studio with Jason Moser, James Early, and Charlie Travers. Some good news this week for the retail industry. February sales up 1.1%. That was nearly double what analysts were expecting. And January's sales were revised upwards. And Jason, one of the biggest retailers, Costco, reported their second quarter earnings. Some pretty strong results. Earnings up 39%. Same-store sales up 5%. When you step back and look at the retail industry, what do you see?
Yeah, there's the obvious loser, sort of the perpetual loser here that's in question, JCPenney and the like. So you look at some of these retail operations and kind of wonder which ones are being phased out and more or less mitigated. And I think that the big box JCPenney's of the world are doing that because of that greater trend towards e-commerce. So your obvious winners out there like an Amazon, Costco, yeah, just another phenomenal result there, and that led to a discussion we had earlier on in the week about these membership models and how really just tremendous they are in just generating not only really loyal customers but really excellent cash flows for the companies. Another one that I just really thought killed it was Home Depot. I mean that is one where, if you're looking to play into housing, I would certainly never really look into the home builders, but I would look at something like a Home Depot or even a Sherwin-Williams. But Home Depot in particular, I mean, that was a 35% dividend boost to go along with an authorization to buy back $17 billion in stock. Now, while I would prefer to see more of that money return to shareholders and dividends personally, I still think it's a testament, at least I think, to management's perception of how the business is running, and probably should look for some good years ahead.
James?
I got a Costco membership card recently. I'm on the bandwagon.
Really?
I know our producer Matt Guerrero is a huge fan.
But you're not Amazon yet,
I got
are
some
you?
clothes from Costco even, and the bathrooms are immaculate. I will give them credit for that too. It's a good business.
Charlie, to one of the points Jason made about the membership model, we also saw a report this week from Morningstar where one of Morningstar's analysts essentially did his best to break down Amazon Prime and the membership there, and because Amazon doesn't really disclose a whole lot about what's inside the basic numbers of their business, but according to this Morningstar report, Amazon Prime may have more than 10 million members. Amazon Prime members end up spending more than twice as much as the average customer there. It just seems like that is such a huge win that can only go up. And I say it can only go up. I'm a shareholder and a happy one. I'm not immune to the challenges that Amazon faces, but that just seems like one of those things, kind of like Costco's model, where it's like if you have a membership model and it's working, you probably have to work hard to screw it up.
I spend a ton of money at Amazon ever since I got my Prime subscription, and I've heard even higher estimates that sales go up 3-4-fold once somebody gets a Prime membership. And it's a great business model for Amazon because they get that cash up front, and whether or not somebody uses it. I, on the other hand, use it very well, and even delivering like 40-pound bags of dog food. So I don't see how Amazon makes any money off of me.
My wife has Prime, and I've been using it to buy these huge metal shelving units, which they're ugly, but you can put everything on them. But I just don't understand why you pay $80 for 2-day shipping when I could easily wait a week for that.
Right.
It's
Well,
just
and
so
that's
popular.
just it. I think it's the perception is some people can wait a week and others prefer not to. But I tell you, one way you can assess how successful Amazon's model is working, or beyond just the Prime, is we pay attention to the shipping costs as a percentage of revenue. Because if you look at, a lot of people think they're really giving up a lot by paying all of this money towards shipping costs. But over time, really, the shipping costs as a percentage of revenue is actually coming down, which means they're making more money and having to pay out less money on shipping. So I think that's just another testament to the momentum that this Prime model is generating, and I would look for that to continue.
In a letter to GE shareholders this week, CEO Jeff Immelt said his top priority is growing the dividend, which must have been music to your ears, James. They're going to be returning $18 billion to investors this year through dividends and share buybacks. What do you think of this?
Well, Chris, just a step back. The question with GE has been, and still is this a real company or is it just some amorphous blob that just kind of floats along with the economy writ large, right? So, I mean, shares are at about a 4.5 year high, still half of what they were in 2008, but GE is doing great. They're making a lot of money. They're differentiating by getting a little bit more into energy infrastructure, which I like. So, yeah, I love the dividend now at 3.2% yield. It definitely gets my attention. They're making a lot of cash, and they're channeling it in the right direction.
Well, and it seems like Immelt is doing sort of a methodical job of executing against this plan of reducing their dependence on GE Capital Finance and really streamlining the business to the extent that you can streamline a behemoth like that. But yeah, to your point, the stock isn't what it was maybe 5 years ago, but over the last couple of years, it's really done a pretty good job.
It's great.
This week, Mayor Bloomberg's ban on large sodas was set to go into effect in New York City, but literally hours before the effect was set to go into effect, State Supreme Court Justice Milton Tingling Jr., which, I mean, how great is that name? Halted the ban, calling it arbitrary and capricious because it applies to some drinks, not all of them, some food establishments, not all of them. Charlie Travers, big win for, well, people who love really large sodas.
And Coke and Pepsi.
And Coke and Pepsi
Yeah,
and
so
Starbucks.
it's a little weird because drinks over 16 ounces, you couldn't get them at restaurants or movie theaters, but you could buy them at grocery stores and convenience stores like 7-Eleven, and it also didn't apply to certain drinks like your lattes at Starbucks or your shakes at McDonald's. So I think it was good reasons for striking this down because it was really selective in its nature as to what it applied to, and it just didn't really make a whole lot of common sense to me, but that's not really why it was struck down, is because he didn't go through the proper legislative channels. This is almost like handed down through diktat instead of a democratic process.
Diktat.
Yeah. That's my dictionary word of the day.
I like that. Hey, can't you just buy 2 8-ounce bottles and have your 16 ounces?
Yeah, and there was no restrictions on unlimited refills. It was, I think his heart was maybe in the right place. It's just the execution's a little flawed.
The Dunkin' Donuts flow chart really was just the perfect, I think. It encapsulated really the problems with this.
Yeah,
with
Dunkin'
this law to
Donuts
begin
put
with.
together these flow charts for customers in preparation for the ban of what was going to change and how they would have to put their own sugar in drinks now and all this sort of thing. And to your point, James, just Google it. It's a great reason. But back, I agree that it's a victory for Coke and Pepsi and Starbucks, but it seems like a pretty small symbolic victory because it wasn't like the stocks popped on the news, and the long-term challenge of obesity in America still exists. It seems like a reckoning is coming at some point, but I guess just not immediately in New York City.
Well, I would think the long 10 to 20-year trend is more in favor of healthier foods, and a place like Whole Foods would benefit from that.
And finally, guys, here's a restaurant stock we don't talk about often, maybe even ever on this show, and that's Cozy. With good reason we haven't talked about it because we avoid penny stocks and shares haven't been above $2 in more than 4 years. But fourth quarter earnings came in worse than expected. Cozy lost even more money in the fourth quarter than Wall Street analysts thought they would. And I want to bring in our man from the other side of the glass, Steve Broido, because Steve, I don't think it's an overstatement to say you're an expert on Cozy and the Cozy experience. You probably were not surprised by these quarterly results.
Not necessarily, no. Cozy is for those unfamiliar, it's a restaurant where basically the rules change based on when you're attending Cozy. So if you get there before 5, you go to the counter to order your sandwich. If you get there after 5 or after 7, it turns into a sit-down place where a waiter needs to serve you. There's different lines for different types of food items. It's incredibly confusing.
There's a bar in the one that's closest to the Motley Fool headquarters. There's a bar that opens up at night.
They all seem different, and it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't like restaurants where the rules change on me depending on which restaurant I'm at and where when I'm there.
You know what Judge Tingling would say about that? He would say that restaurant sounds arbitrary and capricious.
That's exactly how I feel.
Did you enjoy the food at least when you
I
were
do
able
like
to?
the food. I think the food is great. There's a local one by us. We'll go in the afternoon sometimes, and it's probably going to go out of business soon because there's no one ever there. But the food is delicious, and it's great in the afternoon. But you go to a different one, and it's like, no, you're in the sandwich line. But I want a salad. No, you're in the salad line. You need to be over. There's no one in the salad line. Can you help me? No, I can't because I'm in the salad line. Doesn't make any sense.
Makes you wonder what they do with their financial statements.
All right, Jason Moser, James Early, Charlie Travers. Guys, we'll see you later in the show.